Hello, welcome to 1000 Words, Stories on the Way. My name is Matthew Clark, and I'm so glad you're here today. Before we get started, if you enjoy this podcast, please do subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Reviews are one of the main ways to make this podcast more visible online. Meanwhile, please share it with a friend directly too. That's really great if you find something helpful in here. One more thing, I'm able to create these episodes as well as books and music and house concert tours thanks to the gifts and the prayers of my wonderful patron partners. If you'd like to support me in this work, by all means, please do. You can support with a monthly or a one-time gift, and I'll put you on a special patron partner mailing list where I share news and prayers, and you can let me know how I could be praying for you as well. I would love to do that. So you can find all of the info on becoming a patron partner over on my website, matthewclark.net/partner. Okay, well, occasionally I feature a guest essayist here on the podcast, but it's been a while. In fact, this is the first time this season that I've done it, and I would love to welcome my friend Stefanie Peters. By the way, Stefanie is spelled Stefanie. Stefanie. Stefanie Peters is an editor at Library of America in New York City, where she has worked to preserve the writings of Wendell Berry, Jonathan Edwards, Margaret Fuller, Ernest Gaines, Madeleine L'Engle, and Ursula K. Le Guin, among others. She earned an MA in English from University College London, UK, and a BA in English from The Ohio State University. And her writing can be found at stephaniepeters.com and stephaniepeters.substack.com. You can also find her on Instagram at scpeters. Stefanie and I tend to run into each other at art and faith conferences, and I've always enjoyed getting to chat with her. And we especially connected over a shared love of Wendell Berry's work. And most recently, I ran into her in March at the Square Halo Books Conference in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And I thought, Stefanie should write an episode for 1000 Words. And I'm so glad that she kindly agreed. Her essay fits perfectly with this podcast's theme of being on pilgrimage towards Jesus. So, here is this week's episode from Stefanie Peters, Walking into a Psalm.
Eight years ago, I walked the Cumbria Way in England. Or rather, I walked most of it. The whole walk is 70 miles and goes from Ulverston in the southernmost part of the Lake District to Carlisle in Scotland, crossing several fells or mountains, and a lot of glacier-carved lake valleys in between. I skipped the first and last few miles, the ones that took walkers out of and into the cities where the path begins and ends, and walked for 45 miles over 3 days through the heart of the national park. One of the lovely things about long-distance walking in England, in America we call it hiking, is that the paths are usually designed so that each day's leg ends at a bed and breakfast. And there are baggage services that will pick up your luggage in the morning and drop it off at your next stop so that it will be waiting for you when you arrive. You can set out in the morning with just your day pack and your lunch, although often there will be a handily placed pub or cafe where you can stop halfway for lunch and a cup of tea. And then there's the landscape, the valleys of hundreds of shades of green, the dry stone walls, the rocky paths and waterfalls, the glacial lakes, the dark fells, the purple Scottish thistle, the brilliance of the sun when it finally emerges from the clouds and pours its golden light across the hills. The Lake District is still the most beautiful part of the world I have ever visited. As I said, I skipped the beginning and the end of the trail. Part of the reason I decided to do so was that I wasn't sure I could walk the entire 70 miles. I had spent my 20s dealing with an autoimmune disease that required 2 major surgeries. My health issues had felt like a long wandering away from the path that I had imagined my life taking when I graduated from college. Even those 45 miles felt daunting. But I hoped that the 3-day hike would be a kind of pilgrimage, walking into the wild of nature in order to hear a word from the Lord and to say to myself that the rest of my life would tell a different story. I discovered once I began walking that the Cumbria Way is known by locals simply as the Way, which I knew was also the name used in the book of Acts by the first believers in Jesus to refer to Christianity before they had acquired the name of Christians. Instantly, I felt like I was inside a metaphor for the Christian life, or even inside a psalm. Soon I encountered living water up in the fells, the little mountain streams that run noisily everywhere in the Lake District on their way down to the tarns or lakes. The Lake District is the rainiest part of England, and I had accidentally booked my trip for the rainiest week of the year. So there were these little living streams everywhere, their babble the constant soundtrack of my walk. I had expected to find a lot of other walkers on the path with me, but I was told at my first bed and breakfast that it was the off-season. Most other walkers knew that the week I was there, it would pour down rain every morning, and the fell paths would be especially slippery. So I found myself walking almost completely on my own, encased in a waterproof jacket, waterproof pants, and mostly waterproof shoes, and spending a lot of time meditating on Psalm 121, He will not let your foot slip, and Psalm 94, when I said, my foot is slipping, your unfailing love, Lord, supported me. And then there were sheep. So many sheep. The Lake District is known for its native Herdwick sheep, which are raised on the fells, and they were everywhere. I discovered that no matter how high you climb, there is no place where you can get away from the sheep. I remember crossing a high pass in the Langdale Pikes and thinking that I had at last climbed so high that I had surely left the last sheep behind, when of course I found one more lost, or at least wandering, sheep waiting for me. The sheep made me laugh a lot during those 3 days. Their habit of getting themselves into the most unexpected places, their soft white faces peeping at me from around a corner. There is no other word for it, sheepishness, with which they encountered me on a narrow trail, backing up anxiously as they tried to decide how to get around this unwelcome stranger on their fell. So, of course, I began to meditate on myself as a sheep. Now, I love having an itinerary and a map. When I go hiking with friends, I'm the one with the compass and the state park map, but that can often bleed into wanting to be in control, to know where I'm going, or to choose for myself where I'm going rather than trusting the Lord. But I often felt myself to be wandering like a sheep, not knowing where the map was that would keep me on the path of God's plan for my life. On the first day walking in the Lake District, I had left Coniston Water, the home of the critic John Ruskin, and walked past Beatrix Potter's estate and on for about 30 minutes when I realized I was lost. I had been in a wood, but now I was in a field with a bull, and I was pretty sure that I was not supposed to be in a field with a bull. I gave him a wide berth and retraced my steps to the other side of the wood where I found the problem. In the middle of a field, the path had been hard to see. I had taken what seemed like the obvious direction toward a path heading into the wood, but it hadn't been the right path. After some searching and carefully checking and rechecking my compass and the map, I found the place where another, harder-to-see footpath split off from the one I had been on and led in another direction. I would find out a few times on that trip that it was easy to stay on the path when I was climbing up and over a fell. Usually there was only one way up and one way down the difficult portions of the way. It was in the valleys, in the easy places, where I was prone to wander accidentally astray. I took a long time to walk each day's section of the path. I stopped a lot, trying to pace myself, wondering if my strength would be enough for that day's portion of the way, but also sometimes just to enjoy the view. It would usually be sunset by the time I walked into the little town where my next bed and breakfast waited for me. I came to expect each B&B owner to greet me with a little anxiety, saying they had been wondering if I was okay because I had arrived so late. At the end of the second day, I was walking slowly because I was stiff, and I had the beginnings of a blister because all my socks were wet from the constant rain. As soon as I reached Keswick that night and quit walking, all the muscles in my legs seized up so that I could barely walk to a restaurant for dinner. I stood under the shower for a long time that night, willing the hot water to loosen my muscles so that I could continue for the final day. I wasn't sure I could. The last day was the longest. I had to walk all the way around Skidda, the fourth highest mountain in England, in order to avoid the hazardous weather at the peak. Even so, for a lot of the 17 miles that day, I walked in cold rain, and at one point had to stop and try to shelter beside a boulder from a hailstorm. By the time I could see the final town in the distance, I knew if I stopped, I would not be able to keep going. I passed a woman just as I walked into town, and she thought I had just come through a rain shower because my face was wet. I hadn't been rained on. I was crying. I had come to the end of my pilgrimage, and I almost couldn't believe I'd made it. Earlier that day, I had been walking about halfway up the fell when I heard a man calling out in the valley before me, a sing-song repeated call. I was too far away to hear what words he was saying, but I could soon see sheepdogs running up from the valley to help guide the sheep down to the shepherd. Suddenly, sheep were bounding down the mountain all around me, their anxiety about getting close to me less powerful than their urge to obey their shepherd's call. The sheep did not just know his voice. They knew the call he sang out that told them it was time to come home. And none of them, it turned out, had wandered too far away to hear the call when he came.
To close us out this week, Stefanie suggested a few different things, one of which was a Tolkien poem. Well, of course, I had to choose that one because I'm such a big Tolkien fan. So here is J.R.R. Tolkien's Roads Go Ever On. Roads go ever, ever on, over rock and under tree, by caves where never sun has shone, by streams that never find the sea, over snow by winter sown, and through the merry flowers of June, over grass and over stone, and under mountains in the moon. Roads go ever, ever on, under cloud and under star, yet feet that wandering have gone turn at last to home afar. Eyes that fire and sword have seen, and horror in the halls of stone, look at last on meadows green, and trees and hills they long have known. The road goes ever on and on, down from the door where it began, Now far ahead the road has gone, and I must follow if I can, pursuing it with eager feet until it joins some larger way where many paths and errands meet. The road goes ever on and on, down from the door where it began. Now, far ahead the road has gone, and I must follow if I can, pursuing it with weary feet until it joins some larger way where many paths and errands meet. And whither then? I cannot say. The road goes ever on and on, out from the door where it began. Now far ahead the road has gone, let others follow, if they can. Let them a journey new begin. But I at last, with weary feet, will turn towards the lighted inn, my evening rest and sleep to meet. Still, round the corner, there may wait a new road or secret gate, and though I oft have passed them by, a day will come at last when I shall take the hidden paths that run west of the moon, east of the sun. Okay, thanks so much to this week's special guest essayist, Stefanie Peters. Please do check out more of her writing at stefaniepeters.com and stefaniepeters.substack.com. And you can follow her on Instagram at scpeters. If you do, shoot her a message and let her know that you enjoyed her essay. That is all for this week, friends. Thanks so much for being here, and I'll see you next time on 1000 Words.